Welcome to the Power Lunch live on LinkedIn. This is Rhett Power, your host. We do this program every Monday through Friday around 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Today, it's a special 1 o'clock edition. The fun part about the program is that it is live and is interactive. So I want you to ask your questions of our guests so that you can learn, so that we can learn from them, that you can get the information that you want to get. We bring on the best-selling authors, we bring on thought leaders, we bring on people, the best people in their fields, to share their knowledge so that we can all get better at what we do. And that's the whole point of the show. Now, we are simulcasting on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, of course, and YouTube. Yep, and then Twitch, I think, as well as one that we've added recently. Now, if you like the program, give it a like or share now so that other people in your network can benefit from these same conversations. Now, my guest today is Alison Robertson. She is an actor, a personal development coach, a motivational speaker, podcast host of Hold the Drama. I love that title. And I want to ask her about that podcast as well. Her debut book is Enoughness, the simple truth of embracing you. Teaches readers to achieve their goals without compromising their goals. We want to talk about that. Alison, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you. And congrats on the book.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
What was it like writing that first book?
Oh, it was crazy. I mean, talk about pulling up all sorts of self-doubt in yourself when you decide to take pen to paper or thoughts to paper. All sorts of stuff comes up, but nothing is more gratifying once the book was in your hand.
Yeah, what was it like opening it? I know what it was like opening that box the first time it comes with your book.
Well, we were actually advised to videotape me opening it, and I which I have a video up on my Instagram page, and I'm literally am giggling like a schoolgirl. I mean, I didn't know the feeling that I would have. It was pretty exhilarating, I have to be honest. Pretty proud moment.
Well, that's amazing. Let me ask you this. You were introduced to acting by Liberace.
Yes.
I read that. Is that true?
That is the truth. That is a true. Wow, you went deep. I did. I was a young teenager, and I had the ability to meet him through his last protege, Eric Hamlin, and we became pals. And I somehow got on tour with them, not as an artist at that time, more as like just a kid on tour with them, because Eric was another kid. And Liberace taught me everything about the show business industry. I learned standards, I learned music, I learned about show business. I learned everything from 12 to 14 with and it sort of set my career path for me. It's what I knew I wanted to do. It's a strange entry into the business, I have to say.
That must have been wild, I would imagine.
It was wild. It was wild. It was wild. But a lot of things I'll say, oh, I learned that, sitting in front of his piano, and it was pretty awesome. He was an amazing man.
And
so were all of his friends.
Well, I'm sure that there are stories to be told there, but we probably should get to the point. I'd love to hear those stories one day. So what is how did acting lead to personal development coaching? I think that's I want to find out what led you from acting really to understanding that you wanted to help people in personal development and get better at what they do. How did that come about? What was that? What's the story there?
Well, I think throughout my entire show business career, through my creative career, I was always seeking help. Always, how do I get better at this? How do I get a bigger career? How do I help my self-esteem? How do I help my own confidence? And every time I went to a coach, every time I went to somebody, every time I went to a workshop, someone would say to me, you know you do this, right? You know you have this ability to help people. And I always heard it as it meant I wasn't an actor. It meant I wasn't supposed to be doing what I thought my path was.
Right.
And then when I had children, I realized there's something I just thought I had more to give. And I started exploring those other sides of myself. I also came back into the industry at 40, and it was a little more difficult, right, after having children. And I knew I wanted more. I knew I needed to know that I had enough in me. And that's when I came up with this thought that people have a passion and a gift. And it's something I talk about in my book. And I believe everybody has this. I think a gift is something you're born with, right? You come out of the womb having it. You know, some people are great with numbers. Some people are born actors. Christina Aguilera is always my example. I believe she came out of the womb singing, right? She just has always known how to do it. Right. Me, I have always understood emotionally how to move people from point A to point B. Even as a little girl, my grandmother would always say, you collected people. And my passion was acting, right? It's just something I love to do. And once I separated that out, then I was like, okay. And my business partner, Melissa, said to me, I think we can make this bigger. I think we can help a lot more people. And we started a practice here in LA. I got education and I started coaching people, and people started getting success. So that's sort of how the leap, it was through my own personal journey is how I got there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think we all come, I didn't realize that I was a coach until probably, mid 40s, early 40s, right? And that was probably what I should be doing. I mean, it is what I should be doing.
Right.
And I think that we all come to it at a different way and from a different path. But I think that's interesting. I'm always interested in how people got to where they are in terms of,
But also throughout my life, I had heard it over and over again. I just heard it as a negative. I didn't hear it as it's what you were supposed to be doing. I remember I was 19 and I was at a pretty well-known agency in New York interviewing as an actor. And the agent said to me, and this was a very long time ago, this was before coaches were anything. No one had ever heard of a life coach. And the agent said to me, we're starting a new business and we're starting a new wing. And it's these things called life coaches. And you would be great at it. And I literally looked at her like she was crazy. And I regret that moment so much because I just didn't understand. But I always say to people, it doesn't matter how many times you have to hear something. When the penny drops, it drops. And it dropped for me later on.
When you're ready to hear it and listen. Yeah, I want to talk about that. I actually want to talk about that because you delve into that a little bit in your book about listening to that inner voice. How did you talk about in the book? You talk about freeing yourself from your imprisonment. What do you mean by that?
Freezing yourself from your imprisonment of should, right? Of what we should do, right? I say the thing that messes us up the most is the picture of how it should be instead of how it is, right? Very great example is me as a coach, right? If I'm this, then I'm not that. And I think that I always say to people, when you hear someone say, and I'm going to use my finger, you know what you should do? It's usually a big indication of it's a red flag, right? It's more about them than you.
Right.
As soon as you hear should.
We tune it out. Right.
And it's also about languaging. I think should is a habit. You know what you should do? Instead of, you know what I think you get to do?
Yeah.
Because that allows it to be your choice as opposed to should feel shaming to me. And that's my personal opinion. Right? Should is like a regret. Should is a mistake. Should is something you forgot to do. And I think when you're shoulding on yourself, it's a real bad thing. And I think languaging is super important for the mindset. And I think because the mind takes us 90% of the way, that if our mindset is correct and we're speaking to ourselves correctly, we can have anything we want. That's truly my belief. It just takes a lot of practice and a lot of discipline and a lot of determination. It takes a village.
It does. How do you control that self-talk?
You know, I think the self-talk is an education. I think self-talk is an education. I
Okay.
think you have to read. I think you have to feed your mind with really positive things. I think you have to really watch what you're saying to yourself internally. I
Hmm.
think you have to be aware of what's being said around you. Because once you become aware of it, then all of a sudden you hear it, you know, when you hear negative people. And I think negative self-talk is a habit, just like positive self-talk is a habit. So I think we can teach ourselves how to do that. I'm not saying I'm a perfectionist at this. I'm not saying I don't
Right.
struggle with this myself, but it's so awesome when we get into that habit because it is science. You know, there's a reticulating activating system in our brain and our spinal column that's looking for that sensory information to feed our brain the correct stuff. The problem is the brain doesn't know the difference between negative or positive. It just takes what we feed it. So
Right.
why not give it positive stuff? So I feel like if people understood that it was scientific, they would be more positive. I mean, my children want to kill me because I'm always, you know, telling them be positive, be positive, be positive. And it's more than be positive. It's how to create that habit. How to create that habit.
It's how to create that outlook no matter what happens, right?
Yes, because I believe everything happens for us, not to us. The good stuff and the bad stuff. You know, is it a lesson or is it a blessing? Right? You know, it depends on how you look at it. And did this happen so that you take a different path? You know, a lot of times I think to myself, oh, why? Why is this happening? And then I think, okay, stop. Why is it happening? I'm the common denominator. I'm in control.
Right.
So choices do I have to make now? And sometimes I don't want to make the choices, but I have to, you know, be an adult and figure it out.
Right.
At least lead by example.
What is going back to the self-talk a little bit, how do you change that dialogue, and are there some exercises that you recommend, or the things that people can do? I know that one of the things I tell my clients, and when we talk about this, is make a log, right? Make a logbook of your thoughts and stuff. And I mean, start in the morning when you wake up. What are the things that keep a notebook by the bed? What are some of the things that you thought when you first woke up in the morning? What were the first things in your head?
Right. Yeah. I always think the morning journals are really a great thing. I think it's also the first step in changing your self talk is becoming aware of what your self talk is. Because I think so many people are on automatic pilot and they have no idea of what they're saying to themselves,
Right.
um, of how cruel they can be to themselves. I'm using my children as the example, when they are mean to themselves, I always say, stop hurting. You're hurting someone I love very much. Please stop doing that.
I
Um,
like that.
when it's an adult and I'm in a workshop or I'm speaking and someone's being negative, I ask them to put a picture of themselves as a child on their phone. And I say, if you're going to speak really meanly about yourself, be sure to tell that person first, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's really who you're talking to, right? Is that little person inside of you
Yeah.
who's just wants that love or attention. And I mean, people can say that's woo woo, airy fairy, too touchy feely, but at the end of the day, you know, we're just trying to take care of the little person inside of ourselves who really is controlling everything that we're doing out in the world. The other thing
Absolutely.
is, I'm a huge, huge, huge fan of a gratitude journal.
Okay.
Either a journal that you have by your nightstand, they have wonderful apps for the phone, which I love, because it not only keeps you present to what you're grateful for in the day, it also helps you mark time so that you can look back in 2 weeks and realize, like, wait a minute, the past 2 weeks have been really great. Look at all these wonderful things that happen. Because I think we move so fast every day that we sometimes forget the little things that turn into big things of making a grateful life, which is a great way to change your mindset.
Yeah, and I don't think it has to be major stuff every time. It doesn't. I mean, it's the little,
No,
it's actually appreciating the little things that I think is really powerful.
because we always appreciate the big stuff because it's big. Everyone sees it. It's the little stuff that builds our self-esteem, makes us have confidence, shows us that our lives are great. I also think languaging is so important. I get to go to Trader Joe's as opposed to I have to. I
Hmm.
get to versus I have to. Just that little switch in the mind tells me that I'm in control. I'm making a choice versus this like heavy worker bee. I have to do something.
Right.
That little switch.
Is enoughness, to me, the title, this is what I got out of the title means to me. The title to me says, be happy in where you're now, right? Don't long for things that aren't there right now. Appreciate the moment you're in. Is that what you were saying?
It is. What I'm saying is I would love you to have a purpose, a why, and a dream, and I want it to be out there, and I want it to be big, and I want it to scare you, and I want you to go after it. But I don't want you to be unhappy where you are today while you're going after it.
Hmm.
Where you stand today in this present moment, be happy, be joyful, be appreciative, but still reach.
Sure.
But still, I think so many times people are longing for the big thing, and while they're longing for it, they're miserable while they're pursuing it. So
And
they
that's
don't have what
fun,
they
right?
want.
The
Yeah, and that's no
pursuit of
fun.
fun.
It's no fun. I think people need to have joy in their life. I think joy and happiness is a commodity that is extremely valuable. And I think people throw it away all the time.
Yeah.
It's a commodity I'm not willing to give up.
Yeah. I
I
agree.
also think enoughness is being grateful for what you have.
Yeah. Do you think, why do we, why do you think we can't, I mean, everybody's chasing happiness, right? I mean, I see it in a lot of my coaching, and they say, something's not there. It's not right. I'm missing something. Everybody I work with seems to be always chasing that happiness. What is it? Why are we chasing something and forgetting the now? Why do you think people? Why do we do that?
I think there's a couple reasons. I think social media, our society, the input, the stimulus that we have, I think people are moving so fast that they actually don't know how to be present. So when
Yeah.
they are present, they don't know how to deal with themselves or their feelings, right? So if you have to stop and deal with your feelings of right now, and you don't know how to deal with that, it's sure easy to go like, oh, I'm unhappy, so let's just move forward or keep moving or uh, go backwards, be in the past or be in the future. And I think being present is the only way to be happy and joyous. I just don't think we teach people how to do that. So I think people are walking around thinking that there's something wrong with them. There's something wrong. And I
Right.
think it's a collective thing. So everyone's walking around going, yeah, I don't feel good today, or something's wrong, or something. So we're feeding off of each other as
Right.
opposed to saying, how are you today? I'm great. How are you? Great. Awesome. We're present, right? Everyone's moving too fast. That's my theory. Me too. I move too fast too.
We're overscheduled, and I can't. I remember I was thinking about this the other day. I was having a conversation with somebody about it, and my kids have so much more stuff than we did when I was a kid, right? I mean,
I
it's
can't.
unbelievable how scheduled
Yeah.
their time and their activities, and I
And
just,
their stress and anxiety is so much higher. I mean,
yeah, I don't remember this. My kids are stressed out. I don't remember that stress when I was a kid. Really don't.
I agree with you. I just, I think it's something we should be more conscious about teaching people to be present and joyous in the moment.
Yeah, I agree. You talk about balance and harmony in the book. What's the difference?
Mm. I have something to say about that. I'm going to say this. I think balance is bull. I
Okay.
don't think you can
Yep.
balance anything, right? I became successful when I realized that balancing wasn't working for me. I believe you have to harmonize your life. I
Integrated.
believe your life is like a soundboard, right? Like that you have in a recording studio. And all those little dials and knobs is your life. And we don't give everything the same emphasis. So if you're traveling, you're going to pull back on um, uh, what you're doing at your household, and you're dialing up different things. And or if someone's coming into town, you know, you're pulling back on your work schedule, and you have to go to the grocery store. We equalize and we harmonize through a soundboard,
Right.
and that gives us control and tone and nuances of our life, as opposed to balance. Balance to me is two scales that we have to constantly keep right here, and that just feels extremely stressful to me. And it feels like a pass fail situation, because if not,
Yeah.
it's constantly off balance, and it never worked for me. So I'd rather harmonize. And I have a lot of personalities in my life. I live in a multi-generational household. I've got kids and my parents. No one is ever on the same page. I'm never balancing anything. My best days is I'm harmonizing, and
Or you make it
everyone's
at
on the same.
work, right? You're
Yes,
it's a day-to-day thing. I completely agree with you. It drives me crazy, these conversations about work-life balance. It's
yes,
never going to be. That's not a thing. I don't think it's a thing.
exactly. I don't either.
I think you're trying
I,
to
I
figure it out day to day.
I think it's unfair to ask people to balance their lives, especially balance their lives and work.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a tough thing. Harmonize, sure. I'll teach you. I'm sure you can teach it too.
Yeah.
Harmony is a better mindset
Yeah.
than balance.
And realizing that you're going to have ups and downs, right? There are going to be times when work has to take a priority. There's a time when kid
Absolutely.
stuff has to take a priority. And
You're in control of it, but you get to be in control of it. You get to decide what gets turned down, what gets turned up, as opposed to trying to fit it all into the same level of priority. It's just not a truth.
yeah,
It's just not the truth.
yeah. I think that's the honest answer for that question. I think
I'm
so.
from New Jersey. I can only be honest.
I love it. I love straightforwardness. That's awesome. I want to go back to for a second this happiness question, and I want to get your thought. I just don't think we should strive for happiness all the time because I just don't think that's real.
No.
I'd rather be real in what the moment is. If it's pain, it's pain. If it's
Right.
happiness, it's happiness. If it's anger, it's anger. Learning how to understand, use those emotions and learn from those emotions. But um, I just don't think you can be 100% happy all the time with everything that's going on, right?
No, it's completely unrealistic, right? But that goes back to our previous conversation of being present, right? And sort of looking around and seeing like, well, what happened in your life today? What's going on, right? I think people shouldn't strive for happiness. I think they should strive for joy, right?
That's that's what I was
I
struggling.
think
That's what I was looking for. That's it right there, right?
I think they should try to be joyous.
Mhm.
Happiness is something that comes in and out, right? Happiness feels like a moment that we're trying to get to. I'm trying to get to happy. You know, I can remember being a little girl, and if you were sad, I can remember either my grandmother would always say, she'll get glad. She's sad now, but she'll get glad, right? It's a state of mind. Happy is a state of mind. I think joy is a way of being,
Yeah, that's different than I
right?
think than happiness. I think that joy
Correct.
is a state of mind. Yeah,
State of mind. And that's something we can strive for. That's something we can keep working towards.
Yeah.
Even if we're unhappy, even if we are mad, we can then say, I'm going to strive to get joyous again.
I like that.
Because it's in our control. That's what I believe.
So I want to go to social media here for a second. Hey, Lewis, I got Lewis Carter. He said, awesome conversation. Thanks, Lewis.
Thanks, Lewis.
Krista, hey, Krista. She says, everything you're saying, Alison, is great. She says, it's easy for someone living in a rich country with a roof over their head, bills paid, and fridge, maybe a dual salary, but this is not reality. Many people are struggling either with finances or mental issues or both. So I think we need to offer practical solutions beyond mindset. Combined, it works. Alone, it doesn't.
The mindset? Oh, sure. Absolutely. I mean, Krista, was that her name?
Yes.
I agree. And coming from where we're sitting, she's correct, right?
Right.
When you have a job and you have a roof over your head and you have food and you have all these things, I agree with you 100%. So when you're somebody who's struggling financially, that's no greater stress. I am no stranger to what the effects mental illness has on a family or a person. And that's another thing that I do believe that we as a country need to have more focus on with people. So how do we get practical with people that are struggling with mental illness or people that are struggling financially? It's one of the things in my practice I help people with all the time. So the first thing is we have to give people a platform to be able to ask for help. That's the first thing.
Right.
Second thing is it is hard when you're struggling with any type of depression, anxiety, or any type of mental illness. But there are some practical things that you can do. One is, and I hope this doesn't sound too trivial, Krista, but it is setting a schedule every day, getting up at the same time, making sure you're taking care of yourself, drinking water, moving your body, not going to the gym, that's not what I mean, but moving your body, making sure that you have a support system of just one person that sees you the right way. A big one that I have is, like you were saying, set what was good in the morning, but mine is put 3 to 5 things a day that you will accomplish that will move your life forward. 3 to 5 things a day, not 2, not 10, but 3 to 5 things. And once you accomplish them, feel good about that. I mean, I do know that what she's saying, that's a tough situation to be in. And and we as thought leaders and as coaches need to be aware of how to help people like that. I hope I answered that correctly. I hope I answered that.
You know, I think I think, you know, having lived, and we were talking about this before. I mean, I've lived overseas for most of my career and most of my life, and you're absolutely right. It's very easy for us in the U.S. to, when we have the time to think about these things, and our daily grind is a whole lot different than if you live in South Africa or Uganda or Southeast Asia or anywhere like that. And I think maybe that's what she was talking about a little bit, was that it's much easier for us to think about it.
And I do not discount where we're speaking from.
Yeah. Although I would say a lot of times, I mean, interestingly enough, I think a lot of people in some of the poor, I've lived in a couple of the poorest countries in the world early in my career and in the last few years. And what I will say is they do have stress. There's no doubt about it. Life is hard, but they're also some of the happiest people I've ever met too. And because there aren't the stresses of mortgages, and there's not the stress of cell phone and taking the kid to soccer. And
do you think it's the simplicity of their lives that keep the stress lower?
I think it's that. I think there's more connection to people. You know, we were talking about being present. You don't have all the distractions. Life is, you get up and it's a it's a fight for survival, no doubt about it, and that's hard.
Right.
But in that way, it simplifies life, right?
Right. That makes sense. I understand that. I
You
understand
know,
that.
and there's a deeper connection to family, and families aren't so spread out. I mean, there's
You know, I have to say that I have a real appreciation for that, living in a multi-generational household. I grew up in a multi-generational household, and I now live in a multi-generational household. I never thought I would recreate the same
right.
dynamic I have. And I have to say that I think my children benefit greatly from having me and my parents. They have two ends of things, right? And I have the benefit of having the help of my parents, the same way they had the help of my grandmother. So I do think that that is a connection that's missing in our society right now.
Yeah.
That having the older generation and younger generations kind of mixing together to learn from one another.
Yeah.
I think we're in a real impasse there. That's my feelings on that.
No, I'd have to say that's one of the things I think I've missed with, my kids and being overseas and living away, is that they've missed those connections with grandparents and cousins and those sort of really important things that are important for development. And Krista is back, and she says that mental illness is a huge problem. You're absolutely right, and she said thanks for talking about that, because I think it's she's absolutely right. But let me ask you this: let's get practical for a minute. Are there things that people can do, small things today that they could do to be more joyous, I guess, to sort of start making these changes in their life?
Sure. One of the big things when I'm speaking to a group is sometimes people ask me this question, or they'll ask how to move forward in their career or how to get something. And all of a sudden I'll find out that their home or their environment is chaotic, messy, or cluttered.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say to them, wow, I can't help you unless your environment is great. And I think people discount this. But my first step to someone, especially getting joy, is your environment, where you live every day, where you sleep, no matter how big, no matter how small. Please make it something that is beautiful to you, whatever that means. If it's minimalist, modern, sleek, that's you. If it's hodgepodgey, traditional, tchotchke, if that's what makes you happy, I want an environment where you sleep, you create, you generate, you rejuvenate. I want it to be something that when you walk in there, it fills you back up.
Okay.
And I always, that's the first place to start, is your environment. The second is, a schedule. And I hate having a schedule. I hate it. But it does keep me clear and focused. And it does give me space to see where I can have joy, where I can create happiness, where I can have those connections with people. Because I think when people don't have a schedule is when they fall into isolation.
Okay.
I think that's important. And that my third one is gratitude. That gratitude journal, making it concrete, not just speaking it. I know a lot of people say, but I speak it. I talk about it all the time. I'm like, it's great. But there's something about looking down either in a journal or, like I said, there's an app that I love on, I think it's called Happy Tappers. I love it. And I love looking back and seeing what I've done, right?
Right.
And it just reminds me of like, wow, it's been a really great month. Or I did a lot, with my family, or I had a lot of people. I just think it's a great way to create that joy.
Yeah, I like what you said though. I like that environment piece, because I think that find a place that makes you happy and that you can recharge, and I like that a lot. or create it. Make sure that you've got a space that you can.
Or one room. Or one room. One room. It doesn't even have to be your whole home. It can be one room.
What the last question I always ask people: what's the best advice that you've ever gotten, and who gave it to you?
Best advice I ever got. Wow.
Or one that comes to mind.
I'll tell you. I remember when I first was going into New York, and I was feeling very apprehensive and feeling like, oh, I was trying so hard and I wasn't getting what I wanted. And I remember getting in my car. I was living in New Jersey to drive to New York for an audition or something, a class. And I just remember wanting to give up. And I remember my father saying to me, you can't possibly give up when you haven't even started yet. And I just thought, what? And that told me right there. When he said that to me, I thought, and I went into this whole thing of like, but I go to class, and I went to justify. I went to fight. And then I thought, yeah.
That's kind of right.
I haven't even started. And I sort of take that with me today with a lot of people. So I've now put it into a more positive mindset, which is, please do not quit before the miracle happens. And I say it to people all the time. You're so close. You've done so much work. Yes. Is there more work that you can do? Absolutely. Especially if you're my client or you're in my sphere. I want your dream so big. I want your purpose so big that it scares you. So there's always work to be done. But please don't quit before the miracle happens. And that's what I felt my father was saying to me when I was 18.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
You can't
it's so true.
Possibly quit because you haven't even begun.
It is so true. You know, actually, I do want to go back and ask you more about the coaching. Talk about that for people who have listened to this conversation and are thinking, well, maybe I want to talk to her more about her coaching practice. Can you talk about that a little bit and sort of the process and what it is you help people do? I think we lost Alison. Alison, you still there? Looks like we may have lost Alison. We will post Alison's link on the Power Lunch Live website, and we'll post a link to the book, and we'll post a link to her website so that you guys can get more coaching information about her practice. Now, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We've got a great upcoming schedule. I've got Joel Solomon. He is the founder and founding partner of Renewal Funds, which is Canada's largest mission venture capital firm. We've got Dr. Lewis Sanstegrad tomorrow. She is an amazing speaker and author, and we're going to talk to her about building strong teams. We've got Amy Ann Caldwell this week. We've got Shaman Durek on the program. We've got Liz Forkin Bonahan on the program as well. Got a great lineup. You can go to the website at powerlunch.live to look at the schedule and figure out who you want to join us and listen to when we're on the air. Alison, are you back? I thought I may have gotten her back there for a second. But anyway, again, thank you for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow at 12 noon on